What if I told you that what feels like scraping by in the USA is a very comfortable middle class life halfway around the world? Today, we're unpacking how an American woman did exactly that in Chengdu, China, and whether you can do it too. Welcome back to Krisanka React. I'm Sandra, and today we're diving into the story of a 35-year-old American woman who left the US life behind and now lives in one of Chinese cities on just $30,000 budget in a year. You may ask yourself, how is this possible? Stay with us and you will find out. All right, so let's start from the beginning. Ali's life in USA. The woman worked for 70 hours in a week, okay? And she worked in a reality TV production. So it was a very difficult job. She lived from paycheck to paycheck, all right? And we also need to mention that for 10 years, she worked in New York City, extremely busy, extremely expensive. But one day, she just decided to completely change her life. She decided to move from US to China.
So that has become the decision she has come to cherish all her life. And let's talk about the beginning of life in China. First stop was in Beijing when she landed in Beijing in 2019. After a few years in Beijing, she moved to Chengdu.
There was definitely a fear, far from family, long flight, around 15 hours, different food. She didn't know what she's gonna eat, and new, completely new career. She was gonna be a teacher. And another completely human thing. How is she gonna make friends? But excitement won. For your information, Chengdu is one of the biggest cities in China with population over 20 million people.
So let's break it down. Now she found a work and she is working 18 hours a week, 4 days a week as a university teacher. Remember, in New York, she was working 70 hours. And compared to 18 hours a week in China, there's a big difference. Now let's talk about the spending. She used public transport to work. She goes to work through the subway, which the train ticket will cost her 28 cents
For a round
for a
trip.
round trip
Yes.
to work. And the three-bedroom apartment with a balcony will cost her $556 a month. And her work pay 50% of the rent, which means she only pay 278 per month. In USA, it is a poverty if you are getting $30,000 a year. But in China, she is living large, upper middle class.
Life in China is not as difficult as she thought it's gonna be. She has access to Netflix through VPN. All signs and announcements, especially in transportation, are in English too, so she does not really struggle.
Let's talk about other benefits from workplace. Free healthcare and insurance. $15 a month for a subway fare. Once a year, flight allowance around 1,200. Spending $75 groceries and $150 per month eating out.
In the video, she also reveals prices in restaurants. For example, you pay only $4 for a meal in Michelin star restaurant. If you decide to visit American restaurant, you need to spend around $60 for a meal. But don't worry, there is also a local noodle spot where a bowl of noodle costs only $2. As a woman of color, she feels safe. Crime is low, and it's so easy to make friends. But let's not forget about flaws, like being foreigner, especially being a person of color. People just notice you. Sometimes point with their finger. That might feel uncomfortable.
She said that she had saved enough money to be able to buy a small house in Mexico, paid her student loan taken in US. How far do you really think 30K can go in China compared to USA?
Exactly. When it comes to rent, in USA, I think you need to prepare at least $2,000 for just a rent fee. And it depends of your location, right?
Yes.
The city you want to live in. Meanwhile, in China, in Chengdu, that is one of the biggest cities. It's around $600. You can easily find a three-bedroom flat. It's crazy.
How many people can actually afford to eat out in the United States? And do not forget, she can actually eat out in China as little as $4, even $2 for a plate of noodles.
Exactly. Let's not forget that she spends only $75 per month, right? For her
Yes,
groceries.
yes.
Meanwhile, I think we spend more than that in a week. And the fridge is not really full.
And so do not forget that healthcare in the United States is not free, and you have to break your back for it.
Bills are extremely expensive if you don't have insurance.
And public transport in China is extremely cheap compared to US. And don't forget about the EVs. The EVs in China is very affordable.
Yes, so if you decide to buy a car, you can just get it. Meanwhile, in US or Europe, it's a fortune.
Let's talk about safety now. Let's compare US and China. In the United States, every day on the news is either someone shot someone or there is a gun violence or a robbery. But in China, that is not always the case.
If you come to China, you may feel like alien. The language barrier may be also very strong because not everyone can speak English. Everyone has different values and priorities in life. For some, that will be freedom, but for some people, this is just giving up on your family, maybe favorite shops or spots. But let's be honest, money gives you freedom.
So now time for little reflection and a question for our listener. Should we really kill ourselves for a rent fee?
What really makes us rich? Is it the six-figure salary?
This is not just one person living in Western countries. Americans, Europeans migrate to Asia every day.
And is propaganda about difficult, unfair life in Asia still working? But watching so many young people migrating to those Asian countries, I don't think it's working anymore.
If you like the story, do not forget to subscribe. Maybe someone else might need to hear the story. See you in the next episode.